What's good, my beautiful people? Thanks for stopping by my channel. My name is Renee. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. Let's get into it. As you can see, I'm doing my son's hair. He's been locked over a year now. At this point, he had been locked a year and a couple of weeks. I've freshly washed his hair, and now I am oiling his scalp. You saw me spray a combination of aloe vera water, aloe vera water, and water, and a few drops of peppermint oil. I know people say that peppermint oil doesn't mix with water, but I still put oil in my water just because it helps in the fact that it's soothing to the scalp, and considering I have a phobia kinda of spiders, it also makes sure I keep those out of my hair, as well as my son's and anyone else's hair in the house for that matter. Once I put the oil in his scalp, I like to massage it in. My combination of oil is olive oil, grapeseed oil, jojoba oil, castor oil, tea tree oil, and vitamin E oil. I also add a little bit of peppermint oil. I like to massage the oil in for a couple of minutes just to make sure that it's thoroughly in his scalp, and making sure that the moisture that I've sprayed on his hair has been locked in. Alright, now I am beginning to clip his hair to separate his bottom row from the rest of his hair. That way I won't be mistakenly taking hair from the row above it and adding it to the wrong locks. And as you can see, I don't use a comb in his hair, and I basically just use my fingernails and my fingers to try to separate the hair as best as I can. As someone who's been locked now myself since October, and he's been locked for a year, he's very tender-headed, and so am I, and combs are just not our friends. So I gently separate. My son is tender-headed to the point that even if it's as gentle as I can be, he's going to move no matter what. He's not the only child who does this, but I do the best I can to try to make sure that he's not in any kind of pain, because being a tender-headed person myself, my mom used to comb my hair and didn't care if I was sitting there crying or not. But at the end of the day, my hair was done, and tears streaking down my face, stains on my face, my mom didn't care. It's just the fact that it was done. But I try to be gentle with my kids to make sure that they're not in a whole lot of pain when I'm doing their hair. And if we have to take breaks, I don't have no problems or any problems with that, as long as we get the job done and we don't have anywhere that we have to be. So I take my time, even if it's going to take me 2 to 3 days to get their hair done. But as you can see, because I've already moisturized his hair by spraying it with the water and the aloe vera water mix and oiling his scalp, that's all I use. I don't use gels. I don't like residue, and I don't like having to do an extra wash and extra rinse and all of that just to get just the oil that's in his scalp off of his hair and any dirt that's accumulated since I last washed. And I know most folks don't approve, but I don't wash our hair as often as I've seen a lot of pages with people who have locks do. I've seen some wash their hair every week, every 2 weeks, even in some cases every 4 weeks or a month. I don't wash our hair until we've hit at least 6 weeks. That's including my loose natural girls as well. My oldest actually does her own hair. She washes her hair probably every 4 to 6 weeks, depending on how dirty she feels her scalp is. My youngest, I wash her hair probably every 6 to 8 weeks, and it's basically allowed me to retain a lot of length on her hair. At this point, when we pull her hair down to stretch it out to see how long it is, she's sitting at waist length compared to a few years ago when I wasn't taking that good of care of her hair. We were stagnant in growth. But basically the same products I use on my son's hair, which is just the water and aloe vera juice, and oil is all I use on her hair. We don't use blow dryers or anything of the sort as far as heat goes. We try our best to do everything by air drying. I'm adding a little bit more oil here because obviously I missed a spot when I was oiling his scalp. So as I go along, I do spray his hair a little bit more in places if it started to dry out already or started to dry already. But as you can see, I use the locksmithing method as well as, I guess you could say, palm rolling, although I really don't palm roll the hair in my hand. I more so just twist it and then do the locksmithing method to get any loose hairs down the shaft of the lock. I'm on his next row. His texture of hair is totally different from my own and somewhat different from his dad's. I call his hair crawling hair. He's more so along the texture of 3C, 4A. If we were talking loose natural, his curls are nowhere near as tight as mine, and his hair also crawls. When I say he is usually always frizzy by day 2 or day 3 after his retwist, he is super frizzy. His hair starts growing away from his locks and I have to bring him back in. As you can see, parting his hair here, the back is nowhere near as bad as the top of his head when it starts crawling. You'll see in my next video what I did to attempt to alleviate me from having to try to, I guess you say, tame his hair back into his locks after a week or 2 with trying to do the locksmithing method with putting his frizz back in where it needs to be so it won't be all over his head. As you can see, his roots very easily marry together. And like I said, I try my best to keep it from hurting because of how tender-headed he is. I can't remember the exact number of locks he has, but he's either in the 60s or 70s. I started out with 96 locks myself and ended up combining 6. So that brought me down to 93 locks. But I'm good with that number. You may see him continue to wipe his face with a towel. And that's because the water I sprayed on his hair is dripping down into his face, as well as some of the leftover water from me washing his hair. I'm trying to keep the parts as straight as possible. Sometimes I do use the clips, like the one that's right near my left hand, to try to separate it, to separate its parts if it's really bad. But I try my best to do what I can with my fingers. You may see me pull a little bit off his tips. It's usually lint or stray hair that is so loose that it's just hanging there and I have to move it off. I do have to use clips on his hair, whereas I can use a rubber band and hose mine out the way to keep my roots tight or somewhat tight. I don't retwist the hair too tight, and I double check with him to make sure his scalp isn't hurting and that I haven't done his locks too tight. With the locksmithing method, for me, you may see me move my right hand a little bit and twisting it, but that's more so because the roots are pretty loose even after I twist it at the root and then do the locksmithing method. So I try to make sure while I'm doing the locksmithing method that the root is tight enough that it should somewhat stay, and especially considering I was going to do a style on his hair this time to celebrate his 1 year mark, and he was looking forward to it as well. So I wanted to make sure the roots were going to stay in place and not be loose once I do the actual style or prepare to do the style. As you can see, I clipped that second row to the locks down below it to keep from having the clip directly next to his scalp, because I don't want to rip any hair out when I get ready to take the clips out. And his hair is pretty tangled at the roots and pretty married together as well in certain places along the actual parts. Excuse my youngest girl passing through. Also, excuse my son blowing his nose. When I say the boy is tender-headed, he is extremely tender-headed, and you can just tap him on his head slightly and he's going to say, ow, that hurt. And you looking at him like, I didn't even hit you that hard for it to hurt. That's how tender-headed he is. Now we're on the third row from the bottom. I'm clamping his hair out the way. I know you saw him move just then, and I was just pulling the 2 center locks to see how tangled it was. And I'll say I didn't pull that hard, but like I said before, he is super, super, super duper tender-headed. And I'd say his locks are not small, but they're also not really that thick. And like I said, he's only been locked for a little over a year now. And his locks are actually thicker than mine. Not all of mine, but his locks are thicker than the majority of mine. And this is 2 locks that are married together. he's not okay with free-forming, so therefore we have to make sure we separate these locks at the roots. From here, I'm going to speed up what I've recorded. I believe is this row that I'm on and maybe one more row that I filmed. This lock was actually 2 locks that I'm on now, and I combined it, and you might have saw that it looked like it had 2 tips to it. It was 2 smaller locks that I combined, not for any particular reason, but to try to keep the locks on that row about the same size. But yeah, enjoy the rest of this part. So this is how much I got done before I decided to do this top section off camera. You can see the type of frizz I was talking about, where his hair crawls away from his locks. But you should also be able to tell that his texture of hair is not your normal 4B, 4C texture. Here are a couple of pictures of the top being finished. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Be on the lookout for the next video of his barrel twist. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hope you guys have a great day. Peace, family.